So this is the coaches meeting. I'm Coach Derek Pegram, head coach at Nampa High School, and today we have Andy Harrington on. Andy is the head coach at Middleton High School. He is the reigning 4A SIC Coach of the Year. Middleton High this last season finished third in state. And, you know, there's a lot to be learned here with Andy. So, Andy, first of all, man, thanks for being on. How's everything going?
For sure. Thanks, Derek. Thanks for having me. Going good. Just trying to stay busy right now through this pandemic. So,
Sure.
Doing good.
With that pandemic you're talking about, what did we kind of talked a little bit through text about like what our programs look like and stuff like that, but what did Middleton basketball ended up looking like this summer?
We were kind of following, I think, what the SSE for the 4As and 5As put together in terms of once you get through certain stages, you can do more on the court. So, I mean, we originally started out with, you know, and obviously there were guidelines on how to get inside of our gym, but 3 kids to a hoop, like pretty much all skill work, doing that. And then I forgot what the exact dates were. Maybe it was July 15, I can't remember. But then we were able to scrimmage for a little while. And we, you know, it would be obviously broken down into 10, 15-minute segments or whatever it was. And then we'd play. And I mean, for us, and again, like, it just depends on where you're at interpreting the rule of whatever we put together. But anything where everyone was together counted as a competition, at least for my athletic director. So sure. We could do that for, I think, 10 minutes. And I think it went up to 15 later on. But we would do that. And then once that finished, it would be like, all right, guys, go back to your hoops. And we're going to put 10 or however long on the clock, 10 minutes at least. And we're going to do skill stuff. And I think it was 5 kids to a hoop. So performing that juggling act, which, again, like, I didn't realize how difficult, and I'm sure you too, like, going from whatever it was together to a skill drill with 5 kids to a hoop constantly, it was super difficult to plan. But getting the kids in the gym, allowing them to work was good. It was beneficial. I mean, it helped the kids out a ton. But, yeah, it was quite the juggling act, figuring out, hey, there's a lot of drills. I mean, you as a coach know, like, only having 5 kids to a hoop and not being able to, like, compete or touch or just makes it really different. So that's been kind of that. I mean, we actually have been doing a little open gym for twice a week the last few weeks, and that's been, you can play for up to 15 minutes, and then you got to stay out for 10 to 15 minutes. And the kids go back to their hoops. They hand sanitize after every time they play. We wear masks in the gym, all that kind of stuff. So,
yeah, it's it was curveball after curveball, man. It was, you know, almost opposite of how we're used to designing a practice plan, right? Because you do your drill work and then you kind of come together as a team. And this is like, as soon as you start coming together, now you got to take a 10-minute break.
Yeah.
You know, now you got to separate and you can't share basketball and, you know, make sure you got the hand sanitizer on hand at all times. Yeah, it was crazy. So, and this is not me trying to get information from Middleton High School, but you guys had a couple seniors that graduated. Mm-hmm. Some good seniors. You know, Tyler Robinette is one of them that comes to mind. He's going to C of I.
Yep.
I was just curious on the state of Middleton basketball going forward, coming into this year, because I don't think people have the understanding of the kind of depth that you have at Middleton. I kind of get a look at it just through, you know, coaching select with you and stuff and just, you know, talking to you all the time. But what is the state of Middleton basketball going forward after having such a good year last year?
Yeah. You know, I think we're in a good spot. We're going to return 6 out of the 10 guys we had on varsity last year. Mm-hmm. So I think we have a lot of experience coming back. And then both our freshman sophomore team, which was all freshmen last year, won the district tournament, and then our JV made the championship. So we were super competitive at all 3 levels last year, and I think we have some good young pieces coming up. We have had a few kids that have moved into our district that I think are going to contribute at the varsity level that are younger. So in terms of the program, like we're just trying to build and just trying to stay competitive. And I mean, the big thing for me is just I'm not going to pull a younger kid up unless he's going to play. I feel like that game experience of being a varsity or playing JV 30 minutes a game compared to 6 minutes of varsity, for me, I'd rather have them play. So I think that depth-wise throughout our program, we're very fortunate that we have some good players that are young. So, obviously Tyler and Cy and Trent and Jordan are going to be huge pieces to replace. But hopefully we've been doing a good job of developing our younger guys so they're ready to step into those roles. Now it might have to be collectively. I mean, Tyler, for example, I think he was at like 17 or 18 with close to 10 rebounds a game. So is one guy going to just take on that load? I don't know. But if a few guys can, piece that together, then I think we should be okay. So.
Yeah, for sure. One of the kids that comes to mind, and he, made all league last year, I believe he was first teamer, is Tyler Medeiros.
Yep.
Can you just talk about the kind of player that he is a little bit and maybe expectations what you see of him as he gets older a little bit?
Yeah, super excited about Tyler. He'll be a junior next year. When Tyler Robinette went down for a few games last year, Tyler really stepped up. I think he had a few 20-plus point games. So, that talent is definitely there. He's Tyler and him are both around 6'7". Tyler Medeiros actually moves side to side a little better than Tyler Robinette did, but Tyler Robinette was really strong too. So they're a little different, but you can also compare them because they both get on the rim really easily. But, Tyler Medeiros, I mean, he's got to work hard. I mean, he has been putting in time, but, his talent is definitely there. It's definitely something when you pop in the gym and you watch layup lines, you're paying attention to that kid. But, I mean, he's got to keep working on some things. He's got to get stronger. He's got to continue to work on his three-point shot and his handle and that kind of stuff. But, yeah, we're super high on Tyler. And one of the really nice things about Tyler is Tyler's energy is contagious, and he's a super team guy. So, he doesn't care if he's leading the team in scoring or if he's the seventh guy or whatever. Like, he's going to be it every day no matter what. So, yeah, nice to have.
Yeah, it would be nice to have. Just missing. I know a little bit about your background, just in terms of talking to you on the road and just through our text messages that we go through. But if you could just kind of explain your background with basketball, maybe as a player, and then how that translated into you becoming a coach.
Yeah. So growing up, like from a young age, my dad was a junior high teacher in the Boise School District. And so he also coached football and basketball at North Junior High down in Boise. So we would go to all of his games when he coached when we were younger, we being me, my brother who's a year younger, and then my little sister, she just grad transferred for basketball to Idaho. But we lived around sports from a young age. My grandpa, who passed away a few years back, but he played baseball at Santa Clara. He was a 3-sport athlete. My dad, his 4 or 5 brothers played football, basketball, baseball, all the way through high school at Bishop Kelly. So growing up, like if it was a Tuesday night and Bishop Kelly had a football or a basketball game out at Valley View, we were there. And if they made the state tournament and they're playing at 1:15 back when they played at College of Idaho, I mean, my grandpa's picking us up. We're getting out of school early. We're going to that game. So we lived and breathed, honestly, Bishop Kelly sports growing up. And so, I mean, if it was football season, we're playing football. Then it became basketball, then baseball in the summer. And we were really lucky that my dad and my grandpa and my mom obviously is really supportive of it. She loves it too. But my dad invested a lot of time in helping us, pitching to us, hitting the baseball, working on throwing the football, skill development for basketball. So, we did that, and I went to BK, and I played all 3 sports up until my senior year. I played football and basketball. And then I was fortunate enough when I graduated that Idaho State had offered me a preferred walk-on position. So I went to Idaho State, and I was there 2 years as a walk-on under honestly 3 different coaching staffs. First Bill O'Brien, and he stepped away halfway through the season, so Dean Martin filled in for him. And then the following year, Bill Evans, that was his first season at Idaho State. So I was there, and to be honest with you, I wasn't quite good enough to play Division I basketball. So wasn't athletic enough, and I did not fine-tune my skill enough, and I didn't know. I didn't realize at the time. So I decided, I really love this, but I also want to be a student. I just want to step away and kind of do my own thing. So I transferred to the University of Idaho, and I graduated up there with a degree in journalism and a minor in history. And I knew I wanted to do something. I thought I wanted to be a college basketball coach, and I was a student manager for Don Verlin at the time. And so Kurt Rilliewine, who was the assistant there then, called me up one day when I had graduated, and he was like, "Hey, there's a prep school in North Carolina that I just got off the phone with. Like, they're looking for a young coach. You want to go?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's do it. I'm going." So I went out to North Carolina, and I coached at a prep school for a year. And we were just okay. I mean, we were not, we had some good players, but we were not Oak Hill or Word of God or Hargrave Military Academy, but we got to play those teams. So that experience of seeing going in Oak Hill's gym and seeing all the jerseys of Kentucky and UCLA and Texas was really quite something that I still remember. But when that season ended, I started coaching with select basketball with Clint and Colby and those guys. And College of Idaho had a position open on their staff. And the prep school experience was cool for me. It was awesome. But I wanted to get involved with Coach Garson and Colby playing at College of Idaho. So I accepted that and went over to there. It was an awesome season. It was Coach Garson's last season. We had a ton of success. I think we won both the conference regular season and conference tournament. And then we made the Final Four in the national tournament. And just learning from Coach Garson and Colby, and honestly, Michael Johnson, who's at Utah Valley, it was his first year too. Like working with those guys, Scott Sharp, who was at UAB until last year. But like working with those guys and learning from them, like I was just a young guy, but Coach Garson and Colby specifically, those two were, all those guys are great, but those two guys are just the wealth of basketball knowledge they have really helped me, as well as my select coaching experience. As you know, Derek, coaching with, I love sitting on as many benches as possible for select because we all do it our own way, but everyone does it a different way, and you can win in so many different ways. So getting involved with those guys and watching how you coach and how Shelby Lindley coaches and Derek Selvig and Ryan Lundgren was really effective and helpful for me. So when that season ended, I'll be honest, like being a college basketball coach, you have to really commit to being open to traveling traveling a lot during the season, all kinds of things, Saturday, Sunday practice, all that kind of stuff. And I like to have a little more freedom. I like sometimes on Saturday doing different things with my family and friends and my girlfriend. And I just decided like, hey, I want to be involved with basketball, but college is a huge commitment. So a few jobs in the Valley opened up, and Middleton was one of them, and I applied for it. And I was really fortunate that they hired me, and been there this will be my 3rd year coming up. So I talked a lot, but
no, I appreciate it, man. I'm trying to get minutes out of this podcast. Yeah. One of the things you talked about with select, that I really appreciated is every coach has their own way of coaching, but like the goal for every one of those teams is the same. The motion concepts that are installed in those kids and that we run, and then just watching other coaches and how they do their subs and what do they say during a timeout. So having a bunch of knowledgeable coaches with all the same goal is a rare opportunity to learn. So I've been really fortunate to be able to pick guys like your brain and just sit on your guys' bench. But one of the things you talked about that I'm really interested in is you said you coached on the East Coast for a little bit.
Yep.
Being from Seattle, I've seen a different game that is played here in Boise.
Yeah.
But now I've gotten to experience this. I've gotten to experience a little bit of being on the road with select teams. But what is East Coast basketball? What's it like? What's it like to coach those kids? What's the style of basketball that's played over there?
Yeah. So the prep school I was at had kids coming from Florida, Texas, California, Seattle. We had a few kids from Curtis High School, actually. So we got kids from all over. I would say that the biggest thing, I would say the athleticism of just getting on the rim, kids being able to move side to side, I think is a higher level than the group out of Boise, Idaho, or Idaho. I think just the pure being able to break guys down off the bounce, they do that at such a higher level than a lot of our kids do. I would say over here, our guys being able to move without the ball, and some of the really good teams over here make 6, 7, 8 passes, and they've created some type of advantage in shot. So I think that the contrast in styles, and a lot of those teams over there, man, I mean, they could go, they're super talented and they're just pitching it out, and the next guy's getting downhill, and it's downhill, and it just overwhelms you. And over here, you don't see that quite as much because I don't think we have the athletes to do it. So seeing that was interesting, but there are a lot of very good East Coast prep schools or teams that do the same thing that we do. They just have better athletes, better players. And I think that that's just a product of, and this is not a knock on Idaho, but we just don't have the amount of people that a Philadelphia or Los Angeles or New York have to be able to have the same talent, to be honest. So seeing that was really interesting. I think that the one thing that I keep going back to with young kids is, and it's Idaho, it's everywhere, but kids don't know how to play without the ball. I mean, they're so in guarding the ball. I mean, understanding hey, I've got to help, I've got to rotate. It's not me versus you. When I was a little kid, I always joke with my guys at Middleton and Select, okay, Derek and I are both wearing purple jerseys and we're on opposite teams, but we're guarding each other. So I'm not leaving Derek and Derek's not leaving me.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's the one thing with kids these days, that if they don't have the ball, they don't know what to do. If they're guarding their man, they're guarding their man. My guy's not scoring. Why do I have to worry about your man? That's your job,
Yeah.
So that's the one big one that I noticed that it's everywhere.
Yeah. For me, it was, it seems like the area that I came from, the Tacoma, greater Tacoma area, basketball is the first sport. Basketball's played everywhere. Parks, pickup games, it's just everywhere. So I remember when I got to Nampa, my first year at Nampa, we had our first open gym, and the kids were a little confused on, how do you want us to make teams? I was like, just shoot for teams. And they were like, do you want us to go first 5? Do you want us to go opposite? I was like, I don't, let's just go. However you guys want to do it, let's go. There was a lot of those questions about just let's just play, let's just go play. Play. So, cool. When it comes to your influences, you talked a little bit about C of I and Colby. And I know you have your dad on your staff as well.
Yeah.
Your biggest influences, not necessarily in why you got into coaching, but why you do what you do offensively, defensively.
I think Larry Crum, who is my head coach at Bishop Kelly. I think a lot of the motion concepts that we have come from Larry Crum, who was a really good high school coach for me. And actually, Pachi Kearns, who's Bishop Kelly's head coach now, was an assistant when I played there. So both those guys were really good. Coach Crump, Pachi back then handled a lot of the defense, but Coach Crump was all motion, and by the end of the season, I mean, we were moving that ball 9, 10 times without it touching the ground. So Coach Crump, Colby Blaine, and Clint Hordeman are all motion, and that's where I've taken a lot of that. I think, which is offense. I think defensively, both Clint and Kurt Earlywine, actually up at Idaho, who was the head coach at Eastern Washington before that, they run a very similar defense of just containing the ball, pushing people out, contesting everything, but not fouling and that kind of stuff. Really helped me like understand how I want to play. Now, I mean, as well as I do, like in Idaho, it just depends on your team, man. Like if you've got a team that can get outrun, sometimes you got to take chances and compete and fly around. But there's also times where it's like, all right, we're just going to be solid and keep the ball in front of us. And I mean, like guard Memler is not going to read a ball screen. So what's a ball screen, whatever you. So it depends. But those two guys were huge influences for me on that aspect.
Okay. As I was thinking of questions kind of to ask you, there was one that I was like, I don't know if I should ask him this or not, but I'm gonna. So we'll see what the answer is. When you guys played Preston in the semifinals of the state tournament, and it comes down to a last-second shot, and it was in your best player's hands, and it didn't go in.
Yeah.
And that was a team that you had beat earlier on in the season at their place.
Yeah.
And the draw and everything to state, that's a different conversation we could have 30 minutes about. But my question to you is, when you guys lost that game and knowing you have to turn around and play an early game the next day and it's not going to be in the Idaho Center, how did you as a coach, how did you motivate your team to play one more game and at the same time kind of being a little gentle with your words considering the loss that you just had?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think about that game every day, at least.
I'm sure.
I definitely do. I mean, we were right there. So I think it's something where even my senior year of high school, like losing to Madison, we lost in a very similar fashion, and then they went on to win it. I still think about that, not quite as much, but I think that the Preston loss will definitely be something that the group that we had will think about 40 years. I mean, it's that great what if game. Going into the locker room, I mean, as a staff, we stood outside for 5 minutes, and it was just deflating. Honestly, it was silent. I mean, my kids were devastated. I mean, we knew that, and again, nothing against CUNA or Moscow, but we had an idea, and we'd known for a long time. I mean, if we both win our district tournament, we're going to play each other, and we were probably the two best teams. So we knew what was at stake. And when we lost, I mean, when I went in there, it was silent. I mean, we just kind of sat there and we just talked about hey, this isn't the game we want to play in tomorrow. But it's gonna be a long night, and let's get out of here. Let's regroup tomorrow morning. I still I love you guys. I know you love me. We love each other. But we're gonna find a way tomorrow, and we just need a night of let's get the heck out of this. Let's get out of Bora. We got out of there, man. I mean, we went the back way. We got on the bus. Because it was just our guys were so down. I think the next morning, my seniors did a really good job of just hey, we got to win this game. I mean, we haven't ever, I'm pretty sure at the 4A classification, won a trophy. So, the guys even were we've got to find a way to bring this third place trophy home. We should, and honestly, again, if we had beat Preston, we'd probably be happy as could be, Sure. But, we knew we wanted to play in that Idaho Center, and so that first half was awful. I mean, we played horrible. I mean, we were down 10, and CUNA played awesome. I mean, a lot of what CUNA did was making us play bad. But, going in that locker room at halftime, and the guys, I could tell that they'd regrouped. And honestly, as a player, I've been in that spot where it's hard to get up for that first half. I mean, there's just so many emotions, but it was really a credit to our senior leadership and the guys being bought in of just finding a way to win that game. So, again, we had guys step up, and they made some shots, and we found a way. So credit to, those seniors and the guys that played.
For sure. I think about that game simply because, I really, I appreciate our friendship that we have, and sure. I was rooting for you, man. And I truly believe, and I'm a big Virginia fan. I really like Tony Bennett.
Sure.
And when they lost to UMBC, he came out and he said something similar to the effect of, how do we respond through this? And then when they came and won the national title the very next year, he talked about it wouldn't have been the same. We wouldn't have been in this position if that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
So I truly believe, man, because you deserve it, and I know how hard you work. You're gonna be in that championship game soon. You're gonna win that championship, and maybe it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for that game, because your drive as a coach might not have been as big. Your film study might not have been as hard because you wanted it that much more. You know what I mean?
For sure.
So yeah, I appreciate you answering that question though.
Well, I think and this hit me looking into Preston and their run. I've been following them a long time just because I've been so impressed with their program. And
yeah,
there was a run where they were really good and they didn't even make the state tournament. And our guys getting us to that moment, I didn't feel like it was too big. I just felt like they had the experience of being there, and that they being both their players and their coaching staff, and we had never been in that moment. So just as a program, that is definitely something that we're going to lean on in the future and be like, hey, we've been here before. We know we're not afraid of the sold out crowd or what's at stake. But again, our guys had never been there. I had never been there. So
yeah,
no, you're right. I think it's just part of the process and trusting it. So
yeah. In terms of your program, season ends. What does your off season look like? How much time do you give the boys off? Are you running open gyms? Are you in the weight room?
Yeah.
What does that transition before summer basketball look like for Middleton?
Yeah. So after the season, I'll give our guys, it just depends. I mean, it's probably around 1.5 to 2 weeks of just go, get away, relax. And then we have a ton of guys that don't. Most of our guys honestly play football or football and basketball. Play just basketball, but I think we only have a few guys in the program that play baseball. I can't think of one that plays lacrosse. So they're itching to get in the gym. And so we'll just open it up. I mean, and obviously this year is different. Last year when we lost in the state tournament to Preston and Columbia, we had a lot of guys back. We opened it up 4 to 5 days a week. And it was more just right after school, come in. If you want, again, it's all voluntary.
Yeah.
We're going to have open gym. And our open gyms are good. We'll have both downstairs courts going. We could have an upstairs court going. And it's pretty competitive. So the guys will really buy into that, playing hard. So we'll do that. And then the moment that school ends, so the rule of two's up, we'll start practicing. And we'll practice. I'll break our programs up, and usually, unless we have a freshman that's Tyler Medeiros, for example, he was with the JV right away because it's just he's got to go there. But usually, we'll go guys that are going to be at that freshman sophomore group. We think junior varsity guys and then varsity guys. We're going to practice and we're going to prepare, and then we'll go play in 4 weekend tournaments. And usually we've gone to Centennial. We were actually planning to go down to Preston. I think you guys were too.
Yeah.
And then C of I, Rocky Mountain, and then we always finish with going up to Gonzaga. So, we practice a ton. We have Coach Kaiser, who is what just resigned as our softball coach, but he's also our defensive coordinator in football. He runs the weight room. He kills it. I mean, he's a huge asset for us. So the guys will do that in the morning. They'll do their football stuff, which the football is really flexible with us. They take July, we take June.
Yeah.
And so June we'll practice. I mean, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we're practicing for 2 hours. I mean, we're putting in concepts. We're working on our shell defense, and then we'll go play in those tournaments. So
yeah, okay. One of the things I found out pretty quick coaching against you was that you don't mess around defensively. You guys have a really good defensive team. I found that out the first year we played you guys, because we played each other in the playoffs. Winner goes to that play-in game.
Yeah.
And I think you guys held us to 32 points or something like that. Or maybe even lower than that. It was a struggle. And those games are always frustrating as a coach because you're calling everything you can. You're calling timeouts, you're drawing up stuff, and it's just, the defense is too strong. So I was just curious on your defensive philosophy and just how much time do you spend on it in practice, drilling it and stuff?
Yeah. So, and you guys are a really good defensive team, too, by the way. That game was, we struggled to score a little bit too, thinking back on it. But and it's funny, I know our frost shop coach, I think, thinks it's hilarious because I wasn't the greatest defender. I usually was guarding probably the least threat on the court when I was in high school. But I don't know, at some point it clicked like, hey, if we guard our butts off the entire game, whether we are making shots or not, we'll have a chance. So just understanding those different concepts and then applying them. We spend probably half our practice on defense. We're spending a lot of time on it. It depends on the team. Like my first year was more keep the ball in front. Last year it was switch everything, try to pressure, try to run them into the Tylers or whatever. So it depends on the team, but like the things that don't change for me or that are big for me are like don't gamble, which means don't reach when you're guarding the ball, and don't go for shot fakes. We try to just contest. We don't leave our feet. Now, obviously, you have some guys with size, so if they're coming from behind, like I'm cool with those blocks, but on the ball, like I want you just to go straight up and wall up.
Yeah.
And then the last big thing for me is no matter, you can play the greatest defense in the world. If you don't block out, they're going to score. So we really spend a lot of time on talking about blocking out. I'll spend it always happens. The first 3 games we'll have guys being lazy, and I'll just blow it up on film and be like, hey, you're not blocking your guy out. Like, look, there it is. Like you told me you did. Well, there it is. So we really talk about that. Now, how we guard, depending on whether it's blitzing ball screens or hedging or switching or just depends on the team. But I think the biggest thing for me is just not falling for all the shot fakes and jumping passing lanes. We want to be super disciplined with that kind of stuff. And then the last thing is just, once we start scouting, like I try to find guys that can't shoot, and I try to I'm encouraging them to shoot as the opposing coach, but to me, it's just playing percentages. If I can stick my big boy in the middle and that kid that can't shoot's out there, like, hey, because people that don't know basketball, like moms and dads in the crowd, are like, they see a guy wide open and they're like, shoot it, screaming, shoot it.
Yeah.
So they shoot it and they miss it and they're like, why am I so open? I can't figure it out. But it'd be harder to do that at the college level because the guys are more skilled. But
yeah,
we take pride in it, man. You got to play physical. You got to run through screens. You got to dive on the floor for loose balls. If you're not playing hard, you're probably going to sit on the bench. So
yeah. Your tryout process. So at Nampa, and I did this, when I was in Washington as well.
Yeah,
I always took 2 different tryouts. So I would go freshmen and sophomores, kind of go together. And then I would do juniors and seniors go together as well. And I've kind of found that to be good in the sense that you get to see everybody. And I've been at schools where tryouts actually really matter. Some schools, it's like you guys, your team. But our tryout process, we're actually, there's kids that, depending on how they do at the tryout, they're going to make or not make the team. So I was just kind of, curious to see what you guys do tryout wise. Do you have freshman, sophomore, junior, senior all in one time, or how do you go about it?
So, and it's actually something that sucks because this summer has changed, but we were actually, my athletic director had something written up where, because summer basketball is so big, like, hey, the tryout is 2 days and it's 2 hours each day. Obviously that matters. You have to go to that. But we are going to really use summer as our tryout. So now again, if you can't come and you're a good player, like we're still going to evaluate you, still have a chance. But like I'm going to use that month of you in practice and you in games more so than the 2 hour tryouts. So we'll really, we spend a lot. We're probably like crazy about it. my assistants probably hate me. I'm blowing up their phones all the time about guys. And like, hey, here's the 12, or here's what I'm seeing, or I know that when Marcus Graham or Johnny or Nick or my dad or whoever answers the phone, they're like, oh great, here we go. But we spend a lot of time talking about it and evaluating. And I think the few things that we're really evaluating again are who should be on the varsity, who is going to play, and who can handle the role of not playing. And then going down from there, like if we're going to move a kid up, like I said earlier, is he going to play? Is a freshman going to play big minutes on JV or varsity? Is the sophomore going to play on varsity? Because if not, he's going to be on that other team. And then at the tryout, I mean, we'll try out together. Now, the senior, like we'll do it based on talent or what we think of the talent. So we'll put the varsity guys in one area, the JV guys in one area in the frosh off, and let them compete. We do various drills that allow them to compete, and then we'll play at the end. And then after that first night on Friday, it's usually a Friday, I think. We'll go in, we'll kind of write down like what we're thinking, what we're seeing. We'll show up Saturday, we'll go again, and then I have a lot of support from my athletic director, so we'll post the rosters. We use an app now. We'll post it on Team App, and it'll go varsity, JV, frosh off, rosters. And that's it. Now, I mean, if there's a kid that shows up at tryouts that's really good, that has a great tryout, like it can definitely help him. But we're spending a lot of time in that summer, and honestly, like if they're not playing a fall sport, during the fall evaluating, going, hey, he's ready. He might not make it this year, this and that. So probably too much time. We probably overthink it all the time. But
yeah, I think that's misunderstood in some aspects when it's like your tryout it's not 3 days, and if you say it is, you're lying or you're being unrealistic, right? I mean, your tryout is all year long. Yeah. And then your tryout is summer basketball. I tell my boys the same thing. Like summer basketball is really important. You got to come play summer basketball. Yeah. And we have at Nampa, we have a lot of kids that play, multiple sports. So we work with them on their scheduling and stuff the best that we can. But it's important that if you're playing another sport, that you at least make some time to get in the gym. If you can't make the tournament, contact one of the coaches. Let's get you in the gym. Let's get some shots up at least. We have kids that play 3 sports, work, and still have time to come to basketball. So I know you who only does football, I know you can come and make it once in a while. So, I think that's important for kids to know, and parents especially to know.
Well, the other thing is like Donnie is he's good at football too, right? Like Donnie's going to be able to miss more stuff than other guys because Donnie's really good. And when you're building a roster, it's funny. I mean, we're looking at a few guys like, hey, they're not going to play. Like I remember my first year, you guys had a few guys that I remember when I'd look down at your bench, they didn't touch the floor, but they were bought in. They were cheering, they're high-fiving their teammates. Like you have to have a few of those guys on your roster to be able to practice and get through a season. Well, when you're building a JV and a frosh off, if you get down to those last few spots, I mean, there's a lot of kids you could pick, but you're looking for good culture guys. So, hey, that kid might be able on the frosh off. He might be like the 11th guy, but his attitude, I saw in 2 tournaments this summer, he had a really bad attitude. I mean, he is not okay with where he's at. This other kid has some talent. He's going to be completely fine with that. So let's give that kid a chance and get him involved in the program. And those are, being able to use those games to see like who can handle their role is huge for us, even more so than the games in itself.
Yeah.
We're both missing out on that this summer, but
yeah, I know. Especially when it comes to those last couple kids, right? You might have an idea who your top 10 are, but if you want to carry 12 and you don't feel like there's a JV kid who's going to get the playing time like you talked about, right? It might be nice to have a freshman or a sophomore up, but if they're not going to play, what's the point? So now I'm trying to fill the end of my roster with guys who aren't going to be having bad body language on the bench.
Yeah.
And if you are on freshman, sophomore, or JV and you're not playing, you don't want to have bad body language. You're always being evaluated. You're always being watched, and I tell my kids that all the time, like, hey, we're always evaluating you. So that little pity-potty bad attitude you have, that's not going to help you. And it's just funny to see some of their responses. Some continue to do it, some really change. And yeah, man, it's a guessing game sometimes. Your program, I was talking to Colby, and he was saying, or I asked him about one of the things that I heard you talk about in a podcast about celebrating after a win, about how you bring your team in, and watching and observing C of I and seeing the excitement that they play with as well.
Yeah.
It's not surprising that you've had the success you've had in 2 years of being at Middleton, but what do you think, in your opinion, you bring to have that level of excitement and to get your investment that you get out of your kids?
I think that we give them a ton of opportunity. I think that we're like we're giving them 5 open gyms to come compete. And those open gyms this is an example, but like, if you're not playing the right way, I'm going to call you out, and if you're Tyler Robinette, you're getting called out. If you're not, it's not okay. Like, we're all one. We are all a team. Coach Garson was huge on this is a team.
Yeah.
From Talon Pinckney to the number 16 guy on the roster, like, we're all the same. We're all going to work together. We're all going to work hard. They're just as much a part of the process as you are. And trying to build that culture of just working hard and doing it together and then at the end celebrating, I think has been really helpful. Now, it also helps to have a lot of talent, which we've been fortunate enough. We've got some talent. So that goes hand in hand. But I think that the defensive concepts, the select way is you always play hard. You always play hard no matter what. And I think that always gives you a chance to win games. So just every day, like, I mean, our coaches are not – like, we're not taking days off. I mean, if you're an hour and a half in and you're slacking at the end, we're not holding back. I mean, you're going to hear about it. Now, if you're making great plays and working hard and doing those things, my arm's around you too. Like, I'm letting you know how, like, hey, this is exactly why we do the things we do. But I think the accountability thing is huge for us. But also, I mean, we have open communication. I mean, I think the one thing that has been really helpful for us is, I mean, we sit down with our guys individually a lot and talk about, this is where I'm seeing you. This is how I'm seeing you playing. Your body language has been like, what's going on? And that's been really helpful. I mean, getting out in front of telling a kid, like, your role is going to be the 11th guy on the team this year in the summer helps. Now, it's not what they want to hear, and it's not a fun conversation to have, but just being honest with them and the long term has helped us. So I think that's been good. I think encouraging a lot of our kids to play basketball outside of Middleton has helped a ton too.
For sure.
So.
Yeah. Last question, and I promise I'll let you go. When it comes to, like, club basketball, AAU basketball, you obviously are well connected with Select, and I've coached for Select in the past, and I get asked quite a bit, what my opinion on AAU basketball is, Select basketball. Yeah. And I think it can be really good. I think there can be some negative parts of it as well. Yeah. I tend to hear a lot of coaches talk more about the negative than the positive. And so, like, I was weighing all that when you're thinking of, do I want to coach in a certain program, right? Do I want to associate my name with that program? How's that look for my kids that don't play in that program, right? So I was just kind of curious on your opinion on, club basketball, and just kind of talk a little Select as well and your role there.
Yeah, I mean, I think with club basketball, and I've heard the same thing as you. I mean, I've seen a lot of high school coaches that don't like club. I mean, you go down to some of those Eastern teams that are really good, and they're like, hey, we don't want our kids playing club. And I get it. I mean, there are clubs that, just don't do it the same way that other ones do. And so I think the big thing is a lot of coaches feel like they come back with bad habits, whether it's playing individually, or I think another one that a lot of clubs struggle with, or at least whatever, is a kid's role on the club compared to their high school team. Well, on the club level, he's the point guard and he does this. And it's like, okay, well, at the high school, that kid's the point guard. And this is how we do it, So I think that we as coaches struggle with that. But I think if you can find a good club that teaches the right things, it can be super, super beneficial. And I know I work for Select, so I might be, and I'm sure I am biased. I mean, I'm sure there's people that have had bad experiences playing Select, but I just feel like we are teaching the right things, and I think we're encouraging the right things in terms of playing hard, after the game, cleaning up your bench, pushing in your chair, picking your teammates up. And so it's not just the skill stuff, it's the whole experience of Select that I think really matures the kids and gives them a perspective. I mean, we go and play in tournaments that we're playing against. I mean, our kids are seeing high-level kids and how it's done. And I think that there are a lot of clubs that don't play those teams. I mean, we get outside of our comfort zone. I mean, we're playing some good teams. And our coaches are like you, like they're good coaches, high school coaches, college coaches, former college or high school coaches. So the kids are hearing voices that, in my opinion, are voices that I want my kids to hear. I mean, I had a few guys that played for you last spring, and I know they had a good experience, and I know that they learned things from you that helped us. And, I think that that's really good. And I also think it's good to hear another voice. I think if they're hearing my voice every day at some point, like, they're kids, they're going to tone me out. But if they're getting a refresher with Derek Pegram or Zach Smith from Northwest, it's good for them. And so, my role with Select is I'm Clint's assistant. So I help, putting together rosters, finding good players. We get a lot of kids from Montana and Wyoming, so trying to get over there and find some more. Obviously can lean on you or other coaches in the Valley or in the state to find good players, but just trying to find players. And again, like, we're looking for the right players too. I mean, there's a lot of talented kids that for whatever reason we have felt like, hey, you're really good, but like, you're not the right fit for Select, because we're trying to get kids that buy into unselfishness and playing hard and taking charges and diving on the floor for loose balls that are coachable, that are going to look you in the eye and go, yes, coach, I got you. Let's do it.
Yeah.
So that's been kind of my background working for Clint with that. It's been super fun. Obviously this summer and spring have been tough because there's no basketball being played, but it's pretty cool when you see 10 Select teams watching one game and they're just going crazy for that other team. And there's 10 coaches on the bench and clipboard, chair, 7 different guys giving you ideas, and you're like, all right, just get away. Like, but no, it's been good. I mean, Clint does a really good job of evaluating good coaches, and it helps. So
one of my favorite parts about it is just when you do see those kids that you coached now in their school season. It was really cool for me to have Coach Casey and Tade in the spring, and then come regular season, I'm seeing Casey and Tade on Middleton, even though Tade wasn't very nice to us this last year. Just did a pretty good job outside that 3-point line. But no, it's just that bond that you build is pretty cool. It's pretty special.
You care. Like, obviously you want to help Nampa, but you're also coaching because you want to improve your craft and you love basketball. So, like, when I coach Tommy Hunter and Aiden McGarvin, who play for BK, and I know we're going to go to battle, I'm like, I know we're going to go to battle, but I love those kids. They're awesome. Just because they're on the other side doesn't mean I'm not going to coach them up and help them, because it's an awesome opportunity, and we love basketball. So, and we do it, and we like the kids too. So, no, it's been a lot of fun. It's been a good experience.
Good, man. I appreciate you coming on here. This is the first time we're doing this, and this is exactly what I wanted out of it, is just to kind of go back and forth and pick each other's brain and stuff like that. And so I'm grateful that you took the time, to step aside and do this with us. And man, appreciate it.
I'm gonna listen to all of them. Someone's got to get you on there, so you're getting asked because I'd love to pick your brain on
Sure.
things that you guys do as well. And no, I'm sure I saw the list that you guys have. I mean, that's a list that I definitely want to listen to. And I mean, there's coaches on that other one that I don't even know. I'm like, that's a good thing I learned the other day, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
So it's been a lot of fun. So.
Cool, man. Well, appreciate it again. And hopefully we will be seeing you this fall, this summer, hopefully to compete against each other again.
Yeah, let's catch up. Let's do something. Let's talk on the phone or I'll hit you up. So
yeah, for sure. All right, man.
Okay, talk to you soon.
Bye.